Hello, welcome. We're waiting for my guest this evening, but hello, how are you doing? Welcome to a special edition of the Football Fan Show. I am Danny Harrington, and I am with you with my guest through till 8 p.m. tonight. Just waiting for my guest, which is Thomas Moore tonight, and we're talking all things European Super League. This is a massive story, so we felt that we had to do a live stream, had to talk about it, because it is the biggest thing in football. And Jose Mourinho was sacked today, and yet that's not what we're talking about. We might just go into it for a wee bit tonight. How are you doing? I'm sure if you have watched on Twitch, you would have seen my mocking of the European Super League on FIFA 21, where we bought the 12 clubs together. I should say that we're streaming on multiple platforms tonight. We are on Twitch .tv/ The Football Fan Show. We are on Facebook.com/ sorry, we're not on Facebook. We're on my personal page, but we're not on Facebook.com/ The Football Fan Show. But go give us a like there. We are on our Twitch page. We are on YouTube right now, and we're on our Twitter account. And we're going to go over to our Twitter account, where we had a number of polls today. We asked a couple of questions as well. Like, for instance, if the Big Six were kicked out of the Premier League, who would you have replace them? That is a question that we asked we asked you a little bit earlier. But we wanted to talk about the European Super League today. My thoughts on that were Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, the big teams in Scotland. Because as far as I'm concerned, Celtic are a massive club, and they're just as big as Manchester United. Think about it. There are Irish people across the world. There are Celtic supporters clubs all over the world. Celtic are a massive club. However, obviously Rangers are a big club as well. We're going to talk about the European Super League. And we want to take your calls as well. We are going to open the phone lines. The phone lines are open, actually. If you want to give us a call right now, ahead of my guest joining me, you can do so. 0333 303 4082. It's standard network rates apply. You can also type in TFFS live on Skype if you want to give us a call on Skype. You don't want to call from a mobile. You want to call from your Skype account. You can do so. Happy to chat to you about the European Super League. We want your thoughts, of course, on this massive news story. We are going to tell you about it. We're going to hear from the head of UEFA as well. They've released a couple of statements today, and it's a confusing time as a football fan. I'm sure many people are confused, and I did not put my phone on silent, which is incredibly bad. But it's a confusing time to be a football fan, because who's right, who's wrong? Well, the 12 teams involved, they're incredibly wrong. But I'm sure that people, for some reason, it's saying that I'm playing FIFA 21. That's not correct. There you go. Sports. I am not playing FIFA 21. But do give us a call if you wish to do so. Just waiting for my guest tonight. I hope they haven't left their phone. They've probably left their phone switched off. That's what it is. But what do we know about this European Super League? Well, right now, we know that it is involving 6 English teams, this so-called Big Six, which include 2 teams that aren't on course to qualify for Europe, including Arsenal and Tottenham. 2 teams that have never won a Champions League title in Arsenal. 3 teams that have never won a Champions League title in Arsenal, Tottenham and Spurs, even though Celtic have won a European Cup. Nottingham Forest in the Championship have won 2. Heck, even Aston Villa have won 1. Just pointing out the obvious. In fact, combined, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest have won more titles than Juventus, Man City, Arsenal, Tottenham put together. Actually, if you add Chelsea to that, they've won just as many, because Juventus have only won 2. And if you put Juventus and Chelsea together, even Benfica as a sole entity has won more European Cups than Chelsea and Juventus put together. They've won 4, by the way. Ajax have also won more, and yet they're not involved in this. Of course, we have Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, even Leipzig saying that they're not going to be involved in this. And the rumor mill is going crazy with this story, as I'm sure you can well understand. So, with that said, I want to hear now from the president of the Union of European Football Associations, UEFA. Rough English translation of what UEFA means, but this was Alexander Safirin talking to the media earlier.
I cannot stress more strongly at this moment, UEFA and the footballing world stand united against the disgraceful, self-serving proposal we have seen in the last 24 hours from a select few clubs in Europe that are fueled purely by greed above all else. Our game has become the greatest sport in the world based on open competition, integrity and sporting merit. And we cannot allow, and we will not allow that to change. Never, ever. As previously announced by FIFA and the 6 confederations, the players who will play in the teams that might play in the closed league will be banned on playing the World Cup and Euro. So they will not be able to represent their national teams at any matches. So we urge everyone, from the millions of football lovers around the world's media gathered in this call today, politicians and football's governing bodies, to stand tall with us as we do everything in our power to ensure this never ends up in fruition.
That's the head of UEFA speaking at a press conference earlier today, talking about potentially banning players from the World Cup, from the European Championships. I've been watching Sky Sports News all day, and Kaveh Solokol's been all over this for Sky Sports News, and he was chatting at around lunchtime earlier today and claiming that he'd spoken to a board member of one of these so-called Big Six teams in England, that there are board members of those clubs that are fundamentally opposed to this but lack the necessary power to be able to make a difference. There are also rumours, by the way, let me just clear this up, that Jose Mourinho had left Tottenham because of the European Super League. This is not true. It's been debunked. It is because of results, and his 17-month reign as Tottenham manager has ended. We will focus on that maybe towards the end of the show if we get enough time. But let me go through this statement then. So Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United and Tottenham are among 12 of these clubs to join this new European Super League. Granted that United, currently second in the Premier League, on course to qualify for the Champions League this season. Manchester City obviously in the semi-finals of the Champions League, but Arsenal Arsenal have the same amount of points as Leeds United. I don't mean to keep railing on Arsenal. This is not me taking the fight to Arsenal. They're just the worst of these clubs at the moment. Tottenham are also equally just as bad. The fact that you've got West Ham United in 4th, and you're saying that then that Arsenal and Tottenham deserve those spots. No, absolutely not. West Ham are they're having a blip of a season, and they'll probably end up finishing 15th next season, but let's face it, they've done a damn better job than Tottenham and Arsenal have this year. Everton are better than Arsenal this season. They're more deserving of that place in this European Super League. So it's also going to involve clubs like AC Milan, Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Internazionale. What the statement also says is that the ESL founding clubs to establish a new midweek competition to replace the UEFA Champions League, with teams still continuing to play in their respective national leagues. What that says about the FA Cup and the League Cup in England, or the Coppa del Rey in Spain, or the Coppa Italia in Italy, I don't know whether they would actually play in those cup competitions. I don't know. But in the statement, it does say that they would continue to play in the domestic leagues. Now, this creates an issue because I've seen many fans on Twitter say, this isn't such, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, this isn't such an awful thing because they'll still play in the domestic leagues. The thing about that is the FA, the Royal Spanish Football Federation, and the Italian Football Federation are looking at banning these teams from domestic competition purely because they're signed up to a European Super League. So they would be banned from domestic competition. So taking part in a domestic competition is a no-go. And I'll go back to Kaveh Solokol of Sky Sports, and there are lots of these videos because I've been watching Sky Sports News all day. There's lots of these videos on the Sky Sports Football YouTube channel. Please go check them out because they give a much better description than what I can give. But he was, as I say, going back, talking to allegedly one of the board members of one of these big six Premier League clubs, and essentially the messages that he was getting from this club is that they wouldn't really worry about being kicked out of the Premier League if that were to happen, because they would have the European Super League, that if they were allowed to compete both in Europe in this ESL and the Premier League, that they would field weakened teams in the Premier League, essentially making the Premier League slightly more of a development league, because this cup competition would be far more important to them financially. And kind of reminds me of, if you've ever watched Gaelic football or hurling, the Gaelic sports, they have the All-Ireland Championships, which is essentially the FA Cup of both of those sports, Gaelic football and hurling. And they are the cup is more important than the league. The league is just seen as a way to develop players, but the cup is far more important to those teams. And it seems that with this potential split from UEFA from the domestic leagues, that the domestic leagues would just become essentially breeding grounds for young talent, which is kind of what the Papa John's Trophy is all about, with the Premier League and Championship under 23 teams taking part, which I hate anyway. It's going onto this statement. There's been a lot of reaction. Derby County manager Wayne Rooney said the football pyramid must be protected. Chief executive of Aston Villa, Purslow, he's called it a grotesque concept. Danny Murphy said he's disappointed and disgusted. This is another quote: a bonfire of greed. A bonfire of greed. BBC's Dan Rowan has also been on this, as well as Sky Sports' Kaveh Solokol. Dan Rowan tweeting out that he was told that Manchester United and Real Madrid are the ringleaders. JP Morgan backing it, the huge American financial firm which Manchester United have links with, including the fact that Ed Woodward, Manchester United's Ed Woodward, is a former JP Morgan banker. 3 of these US-owned Premier League clubs apparently really sold on this NFL model. This is American model. This is an American model of sport, because they don't understand. And even Kaveh Solokol back on Sky was talking about this, and the American owners don't understand why we have promotion relegation. It seems they want to be guaranteed money for mediocrity, and that's seemingly what they want to be rewarded for mediocrity. And you're going to the well far too often with that, and it's, was it the plight of diminishing returns, isn't it? And you look at it and you just think, you know, do you, as Jurgen Klopp put it 2 years ago, do you really want to watch Liverpool versus Real Madrid for the 10th consecutive year in a row? Do you really want to watch that? Me, well, we'll get into it with my guests, so I'll just put it on the ISN 024. Yes, watching from Bangladesh. How are you? I'm just gonna, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna have our guest on right now, right next. Welcome back to the programme. Thomas Moore is my guest. He is an Arsenal fan, and Arsenal are involved in this European S word. How are you, Tom, by the way, before we get into it?
I feel sick.
You're not the only one.
In every fibre and cell of my being. It's what the frustrating thing is that they've made the clubs involved have made no secrets that it's a blatant money grab. They are not that no one's come out to defend it. The silent owners have remained silent in this whilst all the criticism's buzzing about. And I could not think of a worse thing for not just fans, but the players for those clubs involved as well. That a lot of people talk about the impact of these fans. I was reading something from AFTV Media, because I'm unfortunately that way inclined, saying that a spokesperson saying that someone at Arsenal has said that the focus has shifted onto away from what they call legacy fans,
yes,
and
I heard
onto the
this.
fans and onto the fans of the future. So it's basically saying we're focusing on the casual fan. We want to bring someone who's not a football fan, or someone who may be a fan of another club, to follow these teams because they've got all the superstars in.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, players who take pride in playing for their country are going to, I don't believe it's going to sit too well with them. Ultimately, especially like Arsenal, I feel really for like young talents like Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe, because for them at their age to be playing as well as they are, to be potentially getting an England call up, and then to be told that they may be banned from playing in those competitions because of the short-sighted money grab by the elite that run the club that he plays for, it's just going to force them out. And no superstars are going to want to play. There will be the odd one that plays obviously for the money, but they are going to they're
Yeah.
doing a damage to themselves by playing in this league. No sponsorship would ever touch them. They were. You think how it's going to impact transfers and things like that.
Well, yeah.
Are you able to?
I was going to say you bring up a great point with transfers, and particularly I mentioned already Bayern and Dortmund and Leipzig, and actually I should have also mentioned Porto, who have already said that they will not accept one of these four, because it's meant to be 16 founded teams. It's 12, but they're meant to be four others. Presumably they wanted Dortmund, Leipzig, Bayern, PSG. Quite frankly, I'll get into the reasons why PSG have not signed up, because there's a conspiracy about it. But in terms of transfers, if these clubs are left behind, your Bayerns, your PSGs, you're going to find it increasingly hard to hold on to players like Neymar, because they're going to want to play in this, just Neymar as an example, or Mbappe. You can pick anyone. That they're going to want to play in this European Super League, because they're going to want to play in the biggest matches, to get the biggest money. It's something like 3 billion quid. It's meant to raise altogether, and then it's something ridiculous like 300 million a team, or something, or well over around 200 million a team, which the prize money for winning the Champions League is 120 million. So it's definitely going to disadvantage the teams that aren't in it, because once again we're going to see the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atleti, AC, Internazionale, Juventus, Spurs, Arsenal, all of those clubs, City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, all have that financial impetus to be able to say, well, we like you, we'll just pluck you from there. Oh, who cares about Bayern? They're not in the European Super League.
It's a shambles, honestly. Like, you don't know how it's going to affect transfers, because it's especially, it's like they're joining a league that you can't be relegated from. So it's like these. So like, if you look at the MLS, no one gets relegated from the MLS.
Yeah,
It's a league of what, I forget how many teams are in it. It's like a 15 team league.
18 teams per conference, so they have the Eastern and West. But yeah, you missed the thing that I said, which was it's rewarding mediocrity. It's rewarding mediocrity, because they can be mediocre. Let's face it. No offense, I keep going after Arsenal and Tottenham. I don't hate North London. I just think your teams are the worst in this. Entire group. You'd get spanked every week.
Yeah, if I'm honest, we would. And from a football side, it makes no sense Arsenal joining this league, because you're joining a league full of Europe's elite clubs, where Arsenal haven't been an elite club since the days of the mid tenure of Arsene Wenger, and it still baffles my mind to this day, like at this moment in time, how some teams have this big club mentality with because they have money behind them. These teams who have invested so much money into the grassroots of football, it also seems like a way, as much as it's a money grab by the elite, it also seems like it's a way of these clubs, in order to protect their positions, so they can say to themselves, we're Europe's elite because we play in the European Super League.
Absolutely.
It prevents like massive upsets. So it prevents teams like, if it's going to be managed and run by, a select few wealthy clubs, then it stops people in the Premier League, like your Crystal Palaces, your Burnley, you got teams in La Liga, like your Celta Vigos, your Villarreals, your Valencias.
Real Betis back in the day. Yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
Like a lot of these clubs, because they don't have money, a lot of people use the money side of it to actually determine a club's size. and that means absolutely nothing. I mean, if you look at Leeds United, all right, they've come good in the last few years, but they've never stopped having that massive club mentality. These are teams. I mean, if you look at Man City, struggle to sell out a stadium every week
Yeah.
pre-COVID, whereas there is never an empty seat at Ellen Road.
No, and even if you go into the Championship, you look at a club like Sheffield Wednesday, they have some of the biggest attendances in the entire division, and they're in the bloody relegation zone. I'd like to go back to my favourite Sky Sports News reporter, Kaveh Solokol, because I keep talking about him. I love the fact that he tweeted Benfica, Celtic, Feyenoord, Ajax, Forest, Villa, Hamburg, Steaua Bucharest, Porto, PSV, Red Star Belgrade, Marseille and Dortmund have won 19 European Cups. Arsenal, Atleti, Man City and Spurs have won 0, which annoys the crap out of me. Juventus have only won 2, by the way, and yet they have a God-given right as the best team in Italy. Cyan 024, watching from Bangladesh. Hiya, how you doing? He asks, or they ask, I should say. Sorry to gender you. What do you guys think should happen now after all this? And we're going to get into it now because I am a fan of the Gary Neville approach. Now, I put this out on our Twitter page at TFFS Live on Twitter. Go check it out. There is the poll. It's still running for a day. 313 votes on this one. Should the Big Six be docked points for their involvement in the European Super League, as per Gary Neville's suggestion yesterday? 83.7% of you, no surprise, said yes. Only 16.3% said no. Now, I'm just going to assume that's all the Burnley, Fulham, and all those facts. But I would love to see them get dock points and have a massive financial fine. I'd love them to be kicked out the league, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm a bit like, remember when a certain country wanted independence from the UK? And I was at that point, I was kind of like, oh, why don't you guys go away already? So I'm kind of like that with these 6. And I was thinking earlier, who would I get in if these 6 teams were eliminated? Obviously, you've got to factor in like Norwich City coming up from the Championship, potentially Watford, and whoever wins the playoffs with Sheffield United. Do you not relegate teams from the Premier League, or do you invite other teams to participate? I think you invite other teams to participate. If Manchester United, City, and all that are going to leave, why don't you go to... This is the perfect opportunity to say to Celtic and Rangers, you are 2 massive clubs. The Premier League would greatly benefit from having you in it. Come and join us. Even Hearts, Hibernian, or throw it even further. Ask Ajax.
I think we're just... I don't believe that Celtic and Rangers would leave Scottish football, because that'll come right out of their comfort zone and then they stop becoming serial winners. So I would say invite teams up from the Championship. If football's a pyramid, and pyramids are buildings, and with any building, when 6 or so bricks fall out, you put new ones in. And these ones last a lot longer. So I would say put the Championship teams in there. Push everyone up the pyramid. No one's going to. They've got to look at the the financial impact of these leagues. If they're hoping to invest this 3.5 billion quid into this league, and are expecting a massive return, then they're absolutely fooling themselves, because it's the fan, it's the constant, it's the season ticket holder for 40 years that puts the money into the club. The clubs rely on season ticket holders. That's their big money spinner in terms of fans. And they're just alienating those people.
Yeah, absolutely. The legacy
fans are the ones that go to
legacy fans, as they've called them.
These fans are the ones that go in every week, to watch their team play. If you're thinking that same fan is then going to do the same, so like this fan, this guy who works 5 days a week to go and then spends X amount of money to go watch Man United play on a weekend. If you think every other weekend he's going to fly out to Barca or Italy, or he's going to fly to if you're thinking that, then you are kidding yourself. That's not what's going to happen. No, people are not. I can see what they're trying to do by trying to appeal to the casual fan. They're basically trying to Americanize the league. They're trying to do exactly what happens in China in the MLS. You get the common fan invested into the football by the names of a few superstars, and that's all they're trying to do. Again, like Kave Solikol said, he said, "What in the European Super League? What is going to be the main thing they play for? The J.P. Morgan Trophy."
Exactly.
That's literally all it's going to be.
I'm going to say Jurgen Klopp has reportedly come out in complete and utter disagreement with this league, and he has said, "I hope this league will never happen." Essentially, this was his pre-match. Yeah, he will, and a lot of Liverpool fans are expecting it. By the way, I've seen on Twitter that a lot of Liverpool fans are like, "If this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, we agree with Klopp." But yeah, he spoke to Sky Sports Premier League before obviously they're playing Leeds United. I like Gary Neville's suggestion that if Liverpool's owners don't want competition, they should take to the field, get the Leeds players off, and just play in front of an open goal.
Yeah.
If they don't want competition.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what happens when, I'm not against money being in football. There's a lot of people, a lot of football players who do very well for football, and a lot of them have been given a platform and they've done really well to actually shed that light. I must say, like, one of my favorite people to listen to on punditry is Micah Richards.
I love Micah. Yeah,
he speaks so much sense, but at the same time, he's just such a down to earth guy. It's really disheartening. I'd imagine for the players as well, knowing that they're being dragged kicking and screaming into this league without a say. They're being told. If they're being told that, okay, if the best were to happen and let's say this Super League happens, and they still get Premier League games and things like that, that's still twice in a week that they're playing. There are injuries across the leagues, left, right, and centre, because a lot of these top tier clubs are having European competitions, domestic competitions, the league, all being played within the space of a few days. Arsenal, before they played Fulham at the weekend, only flew back in from the Czech Republic on Friday night. So a lot of these players are tired, they're fatigued, injuries are a lot. What they're essentially doing is essentially promoting this kind of style of football coming thick and fast. And my dad was saying the other day, and on this he speaks a lot of sense in the fact that it's gotten to the point where, because every single football match is televised now, there's just something boring and monotonous about football at the moment.
Yep, and I was going to add to that. I don't even like the Champions League format now, and yet they've revamped it. I just want to go back to something you said about the players, because we've had another question from Cyan at 024, and he says, even if the teams get kicked out of the league or / get banned, what will happen to the players? Well, I imagine the clubs, their billionaire American owners who have come up with this idea, will have to foot the bill. And remember, Man City are owned by an oil-rich Arabic state. They can definitely afford it. Fenway Sports Group would just sell. That's what they would do, because they're spineless cowards. As are the Glazers, although they're in too much debt. I understand, by the way, and this is a factor that we haven't brought into it, and it's just only started to be talked about by some fans. If we not look at the English situation for a moment, because I will get back to that, because I believe they're at a disadvantage joining such a European Super League. But Real Madrid and Barcelona are in, what, 2 billion quid's worth of debt? They're desperate. They need the money. They are so desperate for the cash that they are going for this Hail Mary approach, I believe. I think the Real Madrid chairman is quite frankly Sepp Blatter in another life, quite frankly. I think very little of is it I can't remember who
Florentino
Perez. I view him and Sepp Blatter in the same kind of light. I just think they're both scumbags, utter scumbags.
Yeah, they are. It says it all really when you see that this is going to be a league headed up by Florentino Perez and a member of the Glazer family. You're essentially basically saying, this is going to be a league headed up by two of the biggest crooks in all of football. You might as well put Mino Raiola as head of
Head of transfer
business
policy.
you know, yeah, absolutely. People like
Raiola is
Mina
head of
Raiola
transfers.
are licking their chops, and
Oh yeah,
it just opens up a lot more questions to the people who use football as its plaything. Like the
absolutely.
agents, the owners, and things like that.
A lot of people are going to make a lot of
it's
money, and the fans are going to
yeah,
get
and
screwed
that's
over again.
yeah, absolutely, because the club in terms of in terms of the fans, the clubs don't make any money off of the fans. It's the sponsorships, it's the TV deals, and all of that. But they want to appeal to growing markets now. They see no money to be made in the UK. From a business standpoint, it makes sense. If you're trying to appeal to a market like America, a country that has nearly 400 million population, whereas if you think they're going to appeal for things like, go for China, the most populated country on the world. That's the reason why you saw such a massive surge in the Chinese Super League, because these TV deals in China are worth absolute billions of pounds and dollars, only for these small clubs in China to be littered with a few world superstars, and these world superstars get paid loads and loads of money.
$500,000 a week. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And following on from that, that's essentially what they're creating. I'm trying to think of the phrase to think. I'm trying to think of something to sum this up. It's almost creating, like, I suppose I wouldn't say like a vacuum effect, but it's more to do with the fact of it's very self-serving. Without mincing words, it's basically, these teams see themselves as putting them on a platform. They're putting themselves on a platform and essentially, not to mince words, sucking themselves off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They think they're God's gift to the sport, and they aren't. So obviously, I understand it from a Real Madrid Barcelona standpoint that they are so much in debt that they need anything that can help them. Well, getting rid of Lionel Messi would be one for Barcelona, but apparently then they're going to negotiate a new contract. On the day Jose Mourinho was sacked, and no one's actually talking about it, and we're not either. I look at this. So we've got another statement. This one from the chairman of the Danish FA, and he's a UEFA Exco member as well. He's told the Danish media that he expects Man City, Chelsea and Real Madrid to be removed from this season's Champions League, effectively making the null and void winner PSG. So, Thomas Tuchel, you should have just stayed... you should have just been able to keep hold of your players, not annoy them, and stay in the league. Apparently, also, it's been reported that some of the owners of these breakaway clubs would be secretly delighted if their players were banned from international football, because they receive very little financial reward for releasing their players, and there's a massive risk of injury as well. So, I am... you got your traditionalists that are fundamentally against this, and I think nearly all football fans. I'm yet to see somebody that wasn't a troll on Twitter suggest that this was a good idea, because everybody that said it was a good idea had a copy and paste message, so you know that they are just trolls. I can't see. I can see this taking off. And with all this done, we've been talking about. We didn't have time yesterday when we did this program to talk about the Champions League reform, which has now gone from 32 to 36 teams. I don't like this European Super League. I don't even like the Champions League the way it is. I prefer it when clubs like Panathinaikos and Rosenborg and Spartak and Shakhtar, and I want the smaller clubs. I want the smaller nations. I want them involved, because I don't want to watch Real Madrid versus Manchester United for the 7th billionth time. I'd rather see an upset where Panathinaikos get a 1-0 win. Or remember when Basel beat Manchester United to knock them out? Heck, Shakhtar Donetsk beat Real Madrid in this season's Champions League. Why would you then deny Shakhtar, a really good team, the opportunity to play Real Madrid, which they deservedly They deserve it for winning the Ukrainian Premier League.
You've got, you got to look at it towards of like, they're only interested in the matches that can make them money, bring them TV ratings. How many times over the last few seasons have we seen, when they do the draws for like when they do the draws for like the next round of matches, you cannot say that there's not a bit of fixing going on there, because if you've got both Real Madrid and Barcelona in a semi-final, they're deliberately going to make sure that they don't face each other, so that they've got an absolute money-making final. It's Real Madrid versus Barcelona. I'm not being funny. We don't need to see them play 3 times in a season. They will play twice in a season on La Liga, and it gets all the coverage in the world. BT Sport will cover it. Go watch it there.
Yeah,
you don't need it in the Champions League. I want to see someone step up, and the only thing I can think coming good from this is the fact that if they are expelled, then we'll see some genuine change in the people who dominate this league, because it's the same 2 or 3 clubs every year that win, and it's simply because of a financial advantage. I would say, you know what, let them have their cake and eat it as well. They can go to this Super League. They can see what the knock-on effect of it is by not having the support of the fans. They know they're just playing in half-empty stadiums for a bag of cash and no pride. They're not playing towards anything. There's no relegation. You're not going to be able to play for your national team, which ultimately, from my standpoint, I can't see a football player playing for anything other than they want to be able to represent their team at a World Cup.
Just make some mercenaries.
Do you think Kylian Mbappe, with all that he's done in such a short space of time in his very young career, do you think he would want to be a part of it? Obviously, PSG are not, but do you think someone like him would want to be a part of this league where he just plays superstars all the time? He'll get paid a bag of money for it, I'm sure, but he could represent his country at the World Cup 3 or 4 more times before he retires.
Probably will a few more World Cup. I just want to bring you the statement from Gary Neville, who's on the Monday Night Football with Carragher as well. Obviously, both massively critical of this. And if you watched the Sunday Football on Sky Sports, or you watch the Gary Neville podcast or listen to that, he has been massively critical and talked about docking them points, kicking them out of the league, calling for, back when Project Big Picture was a thing, an independent regulator. What he said on Sky tonight is, I've stayed quiet about the Glazers for a long time, but I can't anymore. What I can't live with is them attacking every single football fan in this country. They have stepped over the mark. They are scavengers. I'd like to agree with that. I'd also like to say that looking at running this, Ed Woodward, Manchester United would be on this board. The Real Madrid chairman would be the chairman of the board of this Super League. They've all resigned, by the way. All these clubs have resigned from the European Clubs Association, the ECA, today. They've all resigned. All members have resigned, and including the Agnelli family, who own Juventus. Their chairman, who is a member of that family, has stood down and would be the third in command of this league. Let me talk about Juventus, and let me talk about the Agnellis. They have enough money. They have more money than they know what to do with. They own 15% of the largest car manufacturer in the world. The 15% of what is now a merger of Fiat Chrysler and the Peugeot Group, the largest car company in the world. They own Ferrari. They own Ferrari. They own the F1 team. They own the Le Mans team. They own Juventus. They own various media companies in Italy. I think they also own The Economist or something like that as well. So, quite frankly, they've got more money than they know what to do with. So why? Why are they bleeding more money out of Juventus? They don't need to do it. I know the Italian league isn't really competitive, but where are Juventus in the table again? Well, they're certainly not top, because that's Internazionale. So
all they're doing is they're essentially building a fortress for themselves to say, we've built this is our castle, we're king and we love it. They're essentially preventing themselves from being subject to any kind of upset. They just want to play the best teams week in, week out for money. Even then, this spokesperson from one of the big six clubs saying it's going to be less about football. It's going to be, they want less football, not more football. I'm sorry, but if you're taking the integral part of this industry out of it, that is complete insanity. How do you maximize profits? How do you maximize your TV ratings? They're saying their main goal is to generate revenue and profits. You cannot do that if you don't have a game to play. A performing artist, a singer, doesn't make money. They'll make less money and sell out less shows if they perform less songs. So if you're going to say we're going to play less football, then you're taking the integral part out of it. If you're expecting these players to maintain their brand deals, because they're not going to get these massive brand deals. Virgil van Dijk's not going to keep getting the money he's earning from Nike because he's appearing less on TV. He's not getting the same exposure. Therefore, Nike are not getting the same advertising revenue from him. Therefore, they're going to sign him up to smaller deals. So ultimately, this will knock back on these players.
I feel
like.
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, I will not pour any money into. I've said to myself, as of yesterday's announcement, that Arsenal were in it. I refuse to pay any more money into Arsenal. I will not buy their shirts. I will not buy their jerseys. I'll say to you, Dan, as soon as the season can resume properly and football at all levels can resume, me and you, I want us to go to a Swindon Supermarine game.
Oh, yes. Now you're talking.
Yeah, me and you to go to a Swindon Supermarine game. Go and watch a game amongst people who love to play the sport and don't just see it as their plaything.
Yeah, and in that vein, Highworth Town as well. We'll go watch them as well.
Absolutely.
The nearest fan-owned club that I absolutely love is Bath City. They are amazing, but they're a bit too far. I will say that Leeds United players in the warm-up were wearing a T-shirt that said "Earn It" on it with the UEFA Champions League symbol, and there's also a banner within Ellen Road which Leeds United have tweeted out saying "Earn it on the pitch." And football is for the fans. And without the fans, football is nothing. That's kicking off at 8 o'clock. We're going off in about 10 minutes. We're not talking about Jose Mourinho. He was sacked today. And looking at Tottenham, we kind of looked at it yesterday. So go check it out on the podcast. There were some bizarre names linked with the job. Sol Campbell, the next Tottenham manager. You heard it here first. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't know where else to go with this. It's killing the pyramid. Actually, no, there is one more place I can go with this. And I hinted at it earlier that English clubs would be at a disadvantage by joining the European Super League. Because essentially, the Premier League makes more money than La Liga, Serie A, Liga 1 and Bundesliga. And they have a way more pocket in terms of transfer spending than their European counterparts. But they'd be willing to sacrifice that to play Real Madrid 10 times a season or Barcelona. And they would then find themselves on parity with those clubs. Because guaranteed, if they do this, then the Premier League's TV revenue is going to go down. Because why would BT and Sky spend all that money on the Premier League when there's a better competition out there? And to be fair, BT put out a statement saying that that they weren't, that it's not for the good of the game, that they weren't interested in it, despite obviously having massive investments in the Premier League and the Champions League as a part of their broadcasting. So of course they're going to say that. It's another reason why PSG aren't involved, because the Qataris don't want to annoy FIFA ahead of the 2022 World Cup and beIN Sports, which is a massive sports channel in the Arabic world, which you would have heard about when the Saudis tried to buy Newcastle, and the fact that they were pirating beIN Sport for a QBet channel in Saudi. beIN Sports owns the Champions League rights in the Middle East because Richard Keys and Andy Gray do the punditry for them. But they have massive investments into the Champions League, and they're not going to want to mean that investment is zilch, zero, nada with the European Super League if they're going to take their own club out of the Champions League. 10 years in a row, we're going to have PSG Bayern Munich final. I can't wait for Bayern Munich to level the amount of European Cups that Real Madrid have won. This is so disheartening because we had, like 6 months ago, we were talking about this, it feels, with Project Big Picture. It wasn't that long ago. But then they came out and said, no, it's not going to happen. You know, we're not going to break away. We're not going to have a European Super League. And then despite saying that, they completely lied to us, mugged us off, and we are now full steam ahead, it appears, for a European Super League, which unfortunately looks like it's going to be impossible to stop. My only wish is that Swindon Town had been invited to the European Super League.
We're already losing 4-0. We're already losing 4-0 at games. We don't need to lose 40-0 at games.
But we could lose 40-0 to Real Madrid every year. That's wonderful. No, I'm joking.
But the thing is, it sounds like it'll probably be the only way that Swindon stay in League One at the moment. Obviously, if these 6 teams get expelled and everyone moves up 6 places, that takes us out of the relegation zone. It
would. Brian München on
Twitter.
It's
like Gary Neville saying, you know, the best thing that can come out of it is if these teams do get expelled, and then it opens a door for new clubs, you know, clubs to actually, you know, who mainly just feel like they just need to stay in the Premier League rather than, you know, fight for anything. You know, people like your Crystal Palaces, your Burnleys, your Brightons, you know, your Newcastle United, you know, allow those teams, you know, who may not have the same financial advantage. Because at the end of the day, every single club that's won the league in the last 10 years, it's been tossed and turned between Liverpool. Liverpool won it once, but it's been a toss-up between Man City and Chelsea.
And then occasionally Leicester.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a case of, you know, it's literally just being teams that have bought it. They have absolutely bought it with the financial advantage that they have.
Brian München, I just want to say Brian München on YouTube says they're against the ESL, but they're also against the new format of the Champions League. So am I. I hate the new format. I don't even like the Champions League as it is now. I'd rather it go back to how it was in the early 2000s, as we were talking about earlier, with the likes of Olympiakos, Panathinaikos, AEK Athens, Rosenborg. I want a variety of different teams. I just don't want the same. It's why I don't subscribe to BT Sport. It's why I don't watch the Champions League. Because I don't want to watch the same old teams playing the same old teams. I don't want to watch Real Madrid versus Barcelona for like the millionth time. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's why, to be fair, as crazy as people say I sound, I prefer the Europa League. I honestly prefer the Europa League because, you know, there are different clubs in there. Those are the ones where you can see the upsets happening. You know, the ones where, you know, teams that you've never heard of, you know, a good performance can then become household names overnight in their country and in several other countries around Europe. You know, it invites newer teams to it from countries where there's not that much coverage. I'm sorry, but I'm sick and tired of seeing Real Madrid, Barcelona, Liverpool, Man City. You know, those games, I'm happy to see at a domestic level. We don't need to see them at a European level. All right, these are great clubs in their own right. But at the same time, you know, there's nothing more. There's nothing more that gets you more excited. I'll tell you something now. Would you be more excited seeing an El Clasico or Der Klassiker Dortmund Bayern Munich? You know, would you be more excited about one of those games? And would you feel the same amount of excitement as in the Champions League a couple of years ago when Ajax absolutely trounced Real Madrid?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it when Ajax nearly won it, and I love the fact that Porto got to the quarterfinals this season. Yeah, I would rather watch the ups. I watch for the upsets. It's why I don't watch the FA Cup beyond the 5th round. I like watching the lower league teams. I like watching Wealdstone versus, whoever, Crystal Palace, or when we had Arsenal versus Sutton United. That was fantastic.
And Sutton's reserve goalkeeper was munching on a pie at the bench.
Yes, he got banned for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. These teams in the past, like at a lower level, have been expelled and players have been suspended for all manner of reasons. Not once has it been greed.
No.
The team should be expelled. They expelled Bury from the Football League for what were basically not having their finances in order. So that means there's something to be said for a club that tries to use its finances to muscle in and dominate the game. So if they're going to expel a small football club like Bury, one that relies on its fans and the club identity to move forward, surely then you can expel these teams, not a problem, for their incessant greed, because then it's their greed that stops these teams coming up through the football pyramid.
And I think it's serious when the Prime Minister makes a statement on it, and I'm just trying to find what good old Boris, has been talking about. I'm trying to find that statement, but Andrea Agnelli, who I was talking about as the chairman of Juventus, he was the head of the European Clubs Association. He stepped down. We've seen Liverpool fans protesting outside of Anfield today. They want Fenway Sports Group out. I think this is the biggest, and we can end on this because I know we're fastly approaching 8 o'clock and it's only a 1 hour stream, but I think this is the biggest call, and I know there are flaws with this system. This is the biggest indication that we need a 50+1 rule in the UK, in England, or just ban foreign ownership. I mean, that's drastic, that last one, but a 50+1 rule in England would prevent this from happening. To think that, Joel Glazer, who would be the second in command of this European Super League, didn't even know it took him 3 years to understand the offside rule. 3 years. Okay, there are referees that have worked 10 years and don't understand the offside rule, so that's maybe a bad example, but they want to... So let's finish it here. Let's discuss the biggest takeaways. They want to be rewarded for mediocrity. They want to be rewarded for mediocrity. In fact, actually, we've just got a few more comments, actually. So I just want to go through those. Papa Perez literally said he will create his own World Cup if the players are banned from... This just reminds me, there is a fabulous example of this, and it comes from the world of cricket. There was an Australian businessman, a billionaire called Kerry Packer. He couldn't get the rights to Australian cricket from their version of the BBC, ABC in Australia. So what did he do? He created World Series cricket, signed the best players who were then banned from the ICC from playing any other forms of cricket other than Kerry Packer's league. And then Kerry Packer eventually got the rights to the Australian cricket, to some rights, and then he cancelled his league and released all the players, although some of the players would never find their way back into their national teams because the likes of the ECB and the Indian Cricket Board never forgave them. So, this is go if you haven't. I was at Kerry Packer's War because it's about cricket, and I know not everyone's a fan of cricket, but it's a fantastic example of a businessman trying to, hijack a sport. Brian Munchin again on YouTube says, I don't like how easy it is for the bigger clubs to come in and swoop in for players of smaller clubs. Well, you look at the Premier League, the academy system, you're able to just take players from other teams. If you've got a certain grade of academy and you go to a club with a lesser grade of an academy, you can just go, we'll have him because we've got a better academy. It'll help the national team. And I think that's where it comes from. But he also adds, I feel we got robbed of seeing Ajax, going back to what you said, Tom, from seeing Ajax more, the Leicester team that won the Premier League. Well, if these big six teams were eliminated, then you would have Leicester top of the Premier League. West Ham would be second. And your biggest teams in the Premier League would be Aston Villa, Everton, Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham. Who else? I'm just thinking who would be the big six. But anyway, don't worry. Kick Tottenham and Arsenal out. Replace them with Barnet and Wealdstone. Two alternative North London clubs. With that said, Tom's got a busy day of work tomorrow. I've got a busy day of work tomorrow. Thank you for joining us for this 1 hour European Super League live stream. The podcast is going to be available very, very soon, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Twitch, whether you're watching on our Twitter channel. Thank you very much. Sign up to our Twitter page at TFFS Live, facebook.com/The Football Fan Show. And of course, you can visit us on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Football Fan Show is primarily where we stream. And then YouTube, it's The Football Fan Show Live. Thank you very much for watching. Tom, anything else you want to add before I wrap it up on the ESL? You can call them shithouses if you wish. By the way, that's the new rule. Whenever we talk about these clubs, I know Twitch doesn't like me swearing, but I'm going to refer to them as shithouses. So anything else you wish to add?
No, I'm just going to find a bucket and be sick. I'm going to find a very dark corner of my house to hang my Arsenal shirt, where it will never see the light of day if they go through with this league. All I can say is, if people really want to hurt this Super League and the hierarchy that think they own football, go back to grassroots and support local teams. We'll go to Swindon. We'll go to Supermarine. We'll go to Highworth Town. We'll go to Bath City. You support these small clubs that rely on the ticket revenue. That's what I'll be doing, and I hope everyone else does the same.
Go support smaller clubs. Swindon Town Football Club, and a potentially annoying Brian Munchen here, but 1860. And I'm wearing a bloody Gibraltar shirt, so you know I'm hopeless. With that said, good night, and hopefully sanity will resume. And Jose Mourinho was sacked today. We didn't even talk about it. Bye.